So today we are going to talk about the Boston Matrix. This is our second to last analysis that we'll do for your companies this unit. Okay, so as it says on the notes here, this will probably be on your third page. The Boston Matrix is a way for a company to analyze all of the products within their mix. And so they're going to put it into one of these four categories. And the categories here are based upon whether the market itself is growing and then how large of a percentage of that market our industry or our company currently owns. Okay. So this would be, let's start top left here, the problem child. That would be if the market itself is growing, but we do not have a large share of that market. So an example of this would be maybe like Samsung in the smartphone industry. Or another one might be like, let's say Adidas in like the minimalist running shoe industry. Okay, so that's growing. That industry is growing, but we don't have we're not the biggest company in that industry. Okay, going down here to the dog would be the market itself is not growing and we don't have a large share of that market. Most companies don't have too many dogs within their product mix or their product portfolio because it doesn't make sense to keep those things around. It's not a profitable industry itself, and we don't have a large chunk of that industry, so there's no sense in us maintaining these as part of our product mix. Okay, moving on here to us having a large market share, but the market itself isn't growing. That's what we call a cash cow. We call it a cash cow because we don't really need to do much advertising for this. And if we are going to do any advertising, it's just maintaining and reinforcing perceptions that consumers already have. So think of this as like an example of this might be like Coke or Budweiser or something like that, right? Consumers have already made up these things. There hasn't been any innovations in the entire market, right? In the soft drink industry, there hasn't really been any major innovations in that industry since probably artificial sweeteners were introduced in, whatever that was, the 60s or 70s or whatever. So that market has pretty much stayed the same. And because of that, Coke has maintained what they do. As a result, I would say that most of the advertisements that Coke or Budweiser have put out over the course of the last 40 years are largely unchanged. They've had to change some things to keep up with the times and societal views, but the way they present the product is pretty much unchanged. And that's in stark contrast to the problem child, where we're constantly changing how we advertise, and businesses themselves are really thinking about how are we going to change these products so that consumers want to buy them more, so we gain a larger market share and hopefully move into this star category. And there's a number of different things that we could do potentially to try and move the problem child into the star. Things like changing the product's features, changing how we advertise, maybe changing who we advertise with in terms of who our target market is, or even something as simple as like changing our spokesperson or who we choose as the person who advertises the product for us. Okay, ultimately, the top part here where the market itself is growing and we have a large market share, those are the stars. So in contrast to the smartphone or minimalist running shoe examples that I gave with the problem child, Adidas is not the star of that industry. I would say that Nike is with their Free line. And then I would also say that at least in this country, in the US domestically, that the star for the smartphone industry would be the Apple iPhone. Okay. So either way, we're going to take a look at for Nike or for Adidas or for McDonald's or whatever, we're going to place all of our products into one of these four categories. Just being aware that the dog is probably the one that we have the fewest number in. Okay.